ministry dedicated to preparing the world for the arrival of the Messiah. The time for the arrival of the Messiah is very short, and you can deduce that fact from the events happening in the world. And today we are looking at the issue of wars, the rumors of wars and rumors of wars. We are looking at Iran and the countdown to Jerusalem. And when we talk about the countdown to Jerusalem, we are talking about the day, the time, the hour when Jerusalem will be finally captured. Jerusalem will be attacked, and Jerusalem will be deserted. Is there a prophecy like that, that Jerusalem will be destroyed, Jerusalem will be attacked? Is there a prophecy like that? Did it happen in AD 70? Yes, it did. But the Messiah at that time also said that Jerusalem will be trodden by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are up. When the Messiah told us in Luke 21:24 that Jerusalem will be trodden by Gentiles, he did not limit it to the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. The Messiah went on to say that the children of God will be taken as captives to all the four corners of the earth, and Jerusalem will be trodden by Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles. And so it is important for you to know that at the time when Jerusalem is being trampled upon by Gentiles, the children of God will be scattered all over the world. And that's why it is important for us to look at the prophecy implications of the war between Iran and Israel. You remember the genesis of the war. Israel attacked Iranian consulate in Syria, a building that has diplomatic connections with Iran. And in response, Iran retaliated, and rockets and other missiles were fired against Israel. In other words, it was part of the countdown to Jerusalem. The first time that Iran attacked the state of Israel from her own soil. And when we're talking about the war in the Middle East, is part of a global plan, and it is related to the plan of war as it was hatched, it was engineered by Albert Pike, who was a mason, who laid the groundwork for the war that will come in the world. And he actually prophesied that there will be a first world war, and that war will be dedicated to dismantling communism. And there will be a second world war, and that war will result in the establishment of a state in Palestine. They will call it the State of Israel. It happened. It happened in 1948, 3 years after the end of the Second World War. And as part of Albert Pike's plan, as you are aware, they will engineer World War III. And that war will actually be the war to establish finally the new world order. And among this plan is to create a stage where the Muslims will fight among themselves. So there will be a final attempt to dismantle Islam and so the world will be under dictatorship. And as part of the war to dismantle Israel, they have to engineer a war between the Jewish state of 1948 and the Muslim Shiite Iranian state. So it's part of a plan. And so the Iranian war with Israel is part of the wars that are planned. So before your eyes, you see their plans being manifesting. The plans are manifesting before our eyes. They plan to stage a first world war, a second world war, and then a third world war. And so people are talking about World War III. The Iranian war with Israel need to be understood from that political context. However, we also have to remember that Jerusalem is in prophecy. Jerusalem will be attacked, and there's a prophecy on that, and the prophecy is in Ezekiel 38, and the powers that will attack Jerusalem in the end times include a coalition of nations, and Iran is specifically mentioned. Iran is mentioned as Persia. So Iran is not going anywhere. I don't believe Iran can be destroyed now. Iran has to survive to fulfill Ezekiel 38 prophecy, being one of the coalition nations spoken of in the book of Ezekiel chapter 38. The question we ask is, when will the Ezekiel war come? Will it involve Iran? Definitely it will. But when will it come? That will be part of the countdown to Jerusalem. Some people are talking about Ezekiel war, but the timing is problematic. The question is, will the Ezekiel war, come when the Jewish state is still in Palestine, or it will come when the Hebrew Israelites are settled in Jerusalem? So there is a battle of prophecies among the prophecy experts. Those who call themselves prophecy experts, they believe that the Jewish state of 1948 is the state that is described in Ezekiel 38, and they consider attempt by Iran to invade Jerusalem or to wage war with Israel as part of the Ezekiel 38 prophecy. So Iran is actually part of prophecy, and so anything that happens between Iran and Israel must be understood in terms of the prophecy regarding the destiny, regarding the future of Jerusalem. The Messiah made it clear Jerusalem will be trodden down by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are up. And that's why you see wars and rumors of war in the Middle East, and that's how we need to understand the Iranian war with Israel, or Israel's war with Iran. Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, and the Strait of Hormuz is responsible for about 20% of global oil supply. And if there's a war between Iran and Israel, it will definitely affect oil exports in the tune of at least 20% of global oil supply. And that event will affect the world. It will affect the world because it will affect the global oil economy, and that will be evidence of the importance of Iran and the Middle East in the world that we are in as we prepare for the arrival of the Messiah. Jerusalem will be trodden down by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are up. When the rockets were hitting Israel, they were intercepted by a coalition of forces, United States, France, and Britain. And the supporters of Israel say that God would defend Israel at all costs because Israel of 1948, the 1948 state, according to them, is the state of Israel, the original state of Israel, and the Lord would defend Israel. And so when American weapons are intercepting rockets from Iran, when French and British weapons are intercepting rockets from Iran, they consider that as part of God's end time plan to save Israel and to defend Israel at all costs. We have to see what will happen to the state of Israel and the final biblical forces will unfold, and we will see how the trampling down of Jerusalem will mean. We will see how it will end, and we will see that the prophecy will come to pass. The end of the Gentiles will come. Is Iran part of the end of the Gentiles? Is Iran going to be an instrument to trigger the times of the Gentiles and the end of the Gentiles? We need to look at that question prophetically as we see for the first time Iran launching attack from her own soil against Jerusalem. Countdown to Jerusalem. Has it begun? When it will continue until the time of the Gentiles. Iran definitely is part of the Ezekiel coalition, and Iran is not going anywhere. And some people are saying that Israel may exercise the Samson option. And the Samson option is a nuclear option where Israel purportedly will attack her enemies with nuclear weapons. And I don't believe the Samson option will be rational for Israel because the Jewish state cannot guarantee her survival, even if it is able to nuke her adversaries. It will not be able to guarantee her own survival. Nuclear weapons constitute non-usable power. It has been used only once in the case of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and there's nuclear deterrence, and I don't think it would be rational for Israel to use the sanction option, particularly against Iran. And secondly, Iran will continue to exist at least until the fulfillment of the Ezekiel prophecy regarding a coalition of nations that will invade Israel in the end times. So Iran is not going anywhere because it is a nation of prophecy. It is a nation that is named in Ezekiel prophecy regarding the future coalition of nations that will invade Israel in the end times. And when we're talking about Israel, which Israel are we talking about? Are we talking about Israel of 1948, or are we talking about the Hebrews who are scattered over the world? The Messiah says specifically in Luke 21:24, the children of God will be taken captives into all nations. Number one, Jerusalem will be trodden down by Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles are up. The children of God were taken as captives to all the four corners of the earth, and Jerusalem has been trodden by the Gentiles since AD 70, and it is still continuing. At the time when rockets were coming from Iran towards Jerusalem, Gentile powers were there They were around the city. They were in that vicinity, and they were intercepting rockets from Iran. And so Israel was boasting that the nation was able to intercept almost all rockets that entered, and less than 1% of the rockets hit their targets. Does it mean that it is God who is helping Israel? And some people say, yes, God is helping Israel. And definitely, God is helping Israel through America, through France, through United Kingdom. And the prophecy is that nations will not support Israel during the Ezekiel war. It is the Lord Himself who will defend Jerusalem. And so when there is the final countdown to Jerusalem, American forces will not be around. British forces will not be around. French forces will not be around. Their weapons will not be intercepting rockets and missiles that will hit Jerusalem, because it is prophesied in Ezekiel 38 that the Lord Himself, Elohim Himself, He will come down from heaven to defend His name. And because of His name, He will defend Jerusalem. It is not because of the people who live in Jerusalem. It is not because of the Gentiles who are trodden down on the holy city. It is not because of the LGBT flag that is being hoisted in Jerusalem. It is because the Lord will defend His name, and He will defend Jerusalem. And the time will come when Jerusalem will no longer be trodden down by Gentiles. Any war between Iran and Israel has implications for the Hebrew Israelites. Why? Because it is part of the Gentiles warring among themselves. It is part of the Gentiles trampling the holy city. And so the time of the Gentiles will come, it will come to an end. And the Hebrew Israelites need to watch. And they need to watch what is happening in Jerusalem, because that city will be trodden down by Gentiles. And so we need to watch the wars that will go on in and around Jerusalem, because we will be watching prophecy manifesting. We'll be watching the unfolding of prophecy. We will be watching the prophesied end of the Gentiles, even as we see rockets coming from Iran towards Jerusalem. Iran has an ideology, the Shiite ideology. Iran says that the 12th Imam will come, the Mahdi will come. So the Shiites are watching for the arrival of their Messiah at a time when the true Messiah is preparing to appear, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the one who will rule from Jerusalem. Jesus Christ is His name. He's appearing to come, and the Iranians are watching for the arrival of their own Messiah. And based upon Shiite ideology, it will need a cataclysmic apocalyptic event to trigger the coming of their Messiah, the Mahdi. And a war with Israel is one of such apocalyptic events. And that is why we need to be watching closely for this event. An event that happened when Iran, for the first time in her history, attacked Israel from Iran, from the soil of Iran. Iran did not use proxies. Iran directly attacked Israel, and that has geopolitical implications, and it also has prophetic implications. Is Iran going to finally unleash deadly weapons on Jerusalem? Would they complete the countdown on Jerusalem to trigger the appearance of their Mahdi, the 12th Imam, the one that they are expecting to come. Israel is also expecting their own Messiah. And the Messiah is not the Lion of the tribe of Judah. They don't believe in him. They don't believe in the Lion of the tribe of Judah. They don't believe in Jesus of Nazareth. They are expecting their own Messiah as the true Messiah, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, prepares to come at the time when the final trumpet of heaven has sounded. So we have Iran expecting the 12th Imam. And they believe that a major crisis involving Jerusalem will expedite the arrival of the Messiah. And here we also have the state of Israel expecting their Messiah. And their rabbis have prophesied to them that Netanyahu will be in power when their Messiah comes. They are expecting a new Messiah, a different Messiah, a Messiah who looks like them. They look like people who are living in Israel. And all those things are happening when Putin came out and showed the icons of Russia, showing the identity of the Messiah, showing that the Messiah was a black man. And it is the one that we are waiting for. It's the original Messiah, as depicted in the original icons that we see in Russia and in other parts of the world. And so, three messiahs are appearing to come: the true Messiah, Yeshua Jesus Christ, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, and then the Messiah of the Jewish state, the one who is being expected by the rabbis in Jerusalem. And then we also have the 12th Imam, the Mahdi, who is being expected by Shiite Iran. What's the implication? The implication is that Jerusalem will be trodden by Gentiles, and the Gentiles will be fighting for the arrival of their messiahs, Gentile messiahs, fake messiahs. And Jerusalem will be trodden down by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles. We need to be aware that prophecy is being fulfilled. There are Hebrew Israelites already in Dimona, in Israel, are waiting for the arrival of the Messiah, are waiting for the final gathering of the children of Jacob scattered over the world. They live in Dimona, a city that is close to Israel's nuclear facilities. Will the nuclear facilities be attacked by Iran? And if Iran does that, how will it affect the Hebrew Israelites who are living in Dimona, in Israel? We are living in a time of prophetic implication. We are living in prophetic times. And as we see Iran, for the first time, directly engaging Israel in battle, we know that we are very close to the time of the Gentile, because Jerusalem will be trodden down by Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles. And that's why we ask the question: Iran and the countdown, to Jerusalem. Are we on course? Is prophecy on course? Yes, prophecy is on course, because now we see that there's escalation of tension, and prophecy is being unfolding before our eyes. Jerusalem will be trodden down by Gentiles until the time is up. The prophet Zechariah said it, the Messiah said it himself. And so we all have to be happy to see that finally prophecy will be fulfilled, as Jerusalem is truly being trampled down by Gentiles, and as we see that the time of the Gentiles are up. And so we see that the Lord will come as he promised, because all the prophecies are unfolding. And that's why we need to repent and watch as we see prophecy fulfilling themselves before our own eyes, as we see Iran making a bold step towards the countdown to Jerusalem. And their ultimate prize is to destroy the state of Israel and to drive Israel out. And their ultimate plan is to rid Jerusalem of Gentiles. And definitely, Iran is a Gentile state, and it is also part of the Gentiles who will be trotting the holy city in the end times until their time is up. And so, even when Iran invades Jerusalem, either on her own or as part of the Ezekiel coalition, their time will be up, because Elohim himself on that occasion will come down and defend the holy city. He will defend the city not because of the occupation by the 1948 state. He will defend the city not because of the people who are treading on the city. You will defend the city not because of the Gentiles. You defend the city because of his holy name. He has chosen Jerusalem to be the city where he will reign, and he will stop the Gentiles from defiling the city with those who are bringing their armada of warships around the city, those who are throwing rockets in the city, those who are hosting LGBT flags in the city, those who are engaging in genocide around the city, those who are claiming they are the true children of God, but they are not. And as the Lord said in Revelation 2 verse 9, Revelation 3 verse 9, we are watching the countdown to Jerusalem. It is part of prophecy, and we know that Jerusalem will be trodden by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles. It is within this prophetic lens that we need to analyze Iran's war with Israel. Thank you for watching this video. I'm leaving the links to the video in the description box. My email is raptureafrica@yahoo.com. Thank you for this message.